Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about how to convert radio buttons into controlled components in React. So let's take a look at my setup here. I'm using Create React app and my editor is VS Code, and on the right side I have my output and my browser is Google Chrome. Okay, so let me just close this so we can see better. So I'm in my app component just to keep things simple, and inside that I have a div with a class of form container, and then below that I have an h3, so a heading, which is this one here, and then I have a form element with 3 radio buttons inside. Okay, so I'm just using sizes for this example, so we have small, medium, large, and then below that I have a submit button for my form. Alright, so our first step in making these radio buttons controlled components is, of course, to set up our state, right? Because control component is dependent on the state of the component. So let's go ahead and import our useState hook. And we're going to set up our state here. So I'm going to say const, and I'll just call it size and set size. And initially it's going to be an empty string. Perfect. So our state is ready to go. And now what we need to do is we need to make it so that whenever we select one of our radio buttons, we update the state with that value, right? So for example, for our first radio button, its value is small. So we're going to make sure that the state is updated with this value. Now to do that, first of all, I want to put my attributes into a column so we can see them a bit better. Perfect. And then below here we're going to just say onChange. So that's the onChange handler. I'm sure you've seen this before in React. And in here we're going to take in our event, and then we're just going to say set size e target value. Okay, and this should do it. So again, what this does is it basically sets our state to whatever the value of our target is, and the target, of course, is this particular input button or the radio button. Okay, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for all the other buttons. Let me just speed the video up so you don't have to watch me type all of this out. Okay, perfect. So this is all done. So now we should be able to set our state depending on which radio buttons the user clicks. So let's just check to make sure this is working correctly. So I'll go here to my Google Chrome and open the DevTools. And I have an extension which lets me see the state of my components. So I'm gonna go there. And currently, as you can see, our state is just an empty string, just like we have here. Okay. So now if I select small, I should see small in here in our state. So let's check if that works. There we go. We see small and medium. We see medium here and large. Perfect. So that's working great. And we're done with the first step of setting up our control component. Now we're not quite finished yet, because right now what we want to do is we want to make it so that the selected value here, so the button that's selected, depends on the state. Currently it doesn't. Okay, so currently we're just selecting it manually, but it's not actually coming from the state. Okay, and I'll show you to prove that. Let's say if I put in a default value for my state, like small, and if I save this, you can see I have nothing selected, right? So we should have small selected here if our state is small, but it's not. And that's because there's no communication right now between our state and the radio buttons. So to set this up, we have to use an attribute called checked. Okay, and we're going to make it equal a boolean. And the way that works is we're just going to say the name of our state, so size, equals to, in this case, small. So if our state has the value of small, this is going to evaluate to true, and this button is going to be selected, right? And we're going to do the exact same thing to the other radio buttons. So here it's going to be medium, and here it's going to be large. Perfect. Let's save that. Okay, and there we go. So we do have small selected by default, and now you can see that the button is selected, right? And if we happen to have, I don't know, medium selected by default, we can see that the medium button is selected. So that's exactly the kind of behavior we want, right? And this also allows us to, if we wanted to change our state from another component, for example, and be able to affect which button is selected. Okay, so now our inputs, our radio buttons are fully controlled by the state, so that's done. And I do want to actually try to submit the form to make sure we're getting the right values. So let's go ahead to our form, and we're going to add an on submit and make it equal to handle submit, and we're going to create that function here. So const handle submit, we'll use an arrow function. First we need to take in the event, and then we're going to prevent the default behavior of refreshing the page. So we're going to say e prevent default. Perfect. And now let's just output our values. Okay, so I'm going to use an alert, and I'm going to say size selected, and then output our size, which is going to be just size, right? Perfect. So let's save this. We don't need this here. Okay, I'm going to start with just small for my default value. So as you can see, we have the small button selected, and if we click submit, we should see an alert saying size selected small. So let's see if that works. There we go. Perfect. And if we select medium, we should see size selected medium, and same thing for large. Okay, so what we've done here, to summarize, is we have set up our radio buttons to be controlled components, and then we've made it so that we're able to submit the form and get the values of our radio buttons. So I hope you found this useful. Happy coding, and I'll see you in the next video.